In 3 months' time, I quit my job. And I think for the last 5 years, I've been quietly quitting. Quietly quitting was a phrase that sort of seemed to come out of the era of the pandemic when we all started working from home. And I think it was a lot of people began to realise that, there has to be a better way than commuting to the office every single day, putting your guts out at work and not getting any further reward for it. And at the end of the day, you're paid to do a certain job, so why do any more and not get any value back from it? And that's the world of quietly quitting. When the pandemic started and everybody had to work from home, I was pretty sorted because I was already working from home 2 days a week, thank God, because my commute is like 2 hours there and 2 hours back. I'd leave the house at 7 and then I'd get back at like 8:30 or something, and then you feel tired and knackered. Yeah, for a long time I did that 5 days a week, but somehow I managed to wangle only working 3 days a week in the office and then 2 days a week at home. So when the pandemic came in 2020, I was set up. And I know for a lot of people it was a struggle working from home, and I understand that. They weren't really set up properly. They were working from, the table in their kitchen or anything like that. I had everything laid out, so working from home was ideal for me. And when the pandemic came and we all had to work from home, I was sorted. But I was lucky really in that regard. Plus, of course, I was saving substantially on not having to pay any rail fares, which meant that I had more money at the end of the month, which is really great. But it was during that time, as with many people, as I said before, that the phrase quietly quitting came up, when I think people realised, there's more to life than just, going into the office every day for 40 years, just looking forward to that kind of moment you get to retire, and then you may be too ill to actually enjoy it and all of that. I think there comes a point in your life where you suddenly think, what am I doing all this for? Am I just working for that retirement age somewhere in the distance? Because it's a long old haul, and it just seems to be like a never-ending corridor. So I think I'd been quietly quitting for the last 5 years, many of those years without kind of realising it, and just building down to my retirement, which at the time seemed like another 5-10 years away. But as things have panned out, the opportunity for me to retire earlier has kind of made itself available to me. And so that's what I've chosen to do. But in terms of quietly quitting, I think you get to a stage in life, in your career, and I don't know if you're the same, let me know in the comments down below, where you kind of feel, I'm really good at my job. It's not that difficult. And if you've been in the job for a long time doing the same thing, you kind of know it like the back of your hand. A bit like a plumber. There's some jobs around the home that I'm really sort of worried about doing, like plumbing or something like that, because I've never done that before. But when you pay an old hand, an old plumber, they come round, they kind of do it without even looking, bish bash bosh, and they're out. They know how to do it. They've got the t-shirt. And it's a bit like that with my job. So, there's no harm in just doing what you do, doing it well, without really sort of thinking about it, sort of muscle memory. Why should you do any extra just because you've got that experience to maybe, do more of it? And I think you get to a certain stage in life where you get tired of that greasy career ladder and all of that, and trying to, garner favour in the office by putting in the extra effort. I think there comes a point where you go, you know what, I'm settled doing this. I do it well, I'm happy, it's not difficult, I don't need to do any more, as long as I don't do any less. That's all that really matters. And at the end of the day, you're paid to do a certain job, so why do any more and not get any value back from it? As the economy kind of shrinks and companies expect greater productivity but aren't increasing wages, there does come a point like, I'm paid to do a certain job. As long as I do that job well, surely that's enough. So quietly quitting is all about doing just what you're paid to do, no more, no less. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about doing your job badly. What I'm talking about is that you've been doing your job for so long, you don't really see any opportunity to kind of move upwards, but you're so experienced you could do your job in your sleep, almost, almost robotically. If a company asks you to move 1,000 bricks from location A to B, and you do it, and that's your job, and that's in your job description, then fine. Then comes down a productivity drive, and they're saying, I tell you what, we need to increase productivity, and I want you to, move 1,200 bricks from A to B. And you go, well, that's fine. My job description was 1,000 bricks. Do I get a pay rise? No. But you're not getting any more pay, so effectively your salary's going down. Why should you do that extra work? What's the point, unless you're getting rewarded? And in an overall economic turn down, I think people realised they were being asked to do extra productivity, stay in the office longer and all of that, and not getting any benefit from it, not getting any value from it. I think when you're younger, the value is career opportunity and things like that. As you get older, you perhaps think, well, I've settled in my career, I can't really see where else my career might go, etc. And that's when the realisation really hit home. That's when it hit home for me. It was like, I'm really comfortable in my job. I enjoy my job. I find my job easy because I've been doing it for such a long time. So why should I try and make my job any more complicated than it is? I merely need to do what I'm paid to do and do it well, without kind of oversubscribing myself or volunteering for extra things for which I'm no longer going to get any value out of it. Why should you do any extra just because you've got that experience to maybe, do more of it? I look at work and people are all over the place sometimes, like, oh, there's so much work to do, and there is. But when it becomes second nature to you, it's kind of, that's fine. I can do it in my sleep. I'm still getting paid the same. I still have the same expectations in terms of the job, but I'm better at it. I find it easier to do without kind of any extra effort. When you start, you're not sure, you ask lots of questions, it all seems a bit complicated. But there definitely comes a point in your life where you go, I can do this without really thinking about it. I think normally at that point, when you're slightly younger, you go, God, I'm so good at this. I need to take the next step and go on further, work harder, get better pay. And I think that's fine, and that's all about career progression. But I think if that career progression sort of stops, or you feel you start getting older and you think, you have those kind of annual meetings with HR about, or your line manager about what are your ambitions for the future. I think when you get into your 50s and things like that, you go, what, my ambitions in the future are just to get to the end of retirement and retire. You know what I mean? That's my ambition. And you always feel like, oh yeah, I want to do X and Y. The options available to you, or in fact the options that you actually want to do, are a lot less. And those sort of annual review meetings become a little bit embarrassing when they're going, how do you see your career progressing? Literally, I see my career progressing, me doing the same thing for the next 10 years and then retiring. The days of having kind of career ambitions are well and truly over. So I think that's where I realized during, the pandemic that I kind of, like many people, that we put in all this effort at work and we just don't get rewarded for it. Unless, as I said, you're trying to climb that slippery career ladder, and there you're sort of doing it for favours later, to show good willing so that you might get value in a salary raise in a new position later in life. I've been doing the same job for nearly 20 years. I've not really moved about that much. I have sort of experienced every aspect of the role over those few years. So yeah, it's straightforward for me. So I'm on cruise control. And you know what? There's nothing wrong on being on cruise control if you're still delivering the job at the levels and expectations that is required of you by your company. Just because you're on cruise control doesn't mean you're doing any less than anybody else. Just means you're doing it more efficiently, more effectively, because you have the experience and know-how to do that job, effectively. Also, as you get further on in your career, often the opportunities become less and less. You get into a sort of a bottleneck career-wise. There was an opportunity for me recently to kind of go into sort of senior level. I applied for the job and I was overlooked for a kind of promotion, which wasn't a great big deal and was understandable. But I think at that point, rather than unconsciously, quietly quitting, I kind of decided, you know what? I'm glad I didn't get that job. Yeah, it would have meant a little bit of a pay rise, but it would have also meant a hell of a lot more responsibility. And do you know what? I'm quite happy in cruise control. So I was sort of relieved in a way. If I had got the job, I would have put my whole effort into it and all of that, but since I didn't, fine. Actually, it made me realise I'm quite happy being on cruise control and just cruising towards the end of the job career, the end of my career, and then retiring. And then, as I said, this opportunity arose for which I could retire early, and I thought, do you know what? I always wanted to retire before I was 60. Now I have an opportunity to do that, to achieve it. The maths will work out, I think. So that's what I'm going to do. But it's just interesting that as you get older and you decide you no longer want to sort of climb up the greasy pole of career and things like that, you might wonder whether being in cruise control is somehow a bad thing. But actually, no. You know, there is more to life than work. And I think the pandemic era and working from home for many people made them realise the whole work-life balance was wrong. You know, suddenly people discovered that they actually had a life beyond work. You know, you could do stuff in the morning, you could do stuff in the evening, but perhaps you couldn't do when you were commuting into work in the morning and commuting on the way back. And people were discovering new passions and new life. There is more to life than just work and, you know, putting your guts out and being asked to kind of deliver ever increasing productivity and yet getting no reward for it. So yeah, there's nothing wrong in quietly quitting, especially when you get older and then finally getting to that wonderful point in life where you do finally quit. Many of you will notice on this video that I'm in a slightly different location than I am normally, as you'll see here on this beautiful winter's day as I enjoy a little break in Tokyo. Anyway, I hope you found this video interesting. I hope some of the points I made kind of make sense to you and all of that, and you might have similar kind of thoughts and feelings as you get into your later life of retirement and all of that. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below, and if you like this video, of course, hit the likes, because I like it, YouTube likes it, and it helps people like you find content just like this. And of course, if you're new to my channel, do me the great honor, please, of hitting that subscribe button, toggling that notification bell, and that way you'll know when I go live with videos just like this. Oh yeah, and talking of videos just like this, why don't you check out the videos over here? These ones here, yeah? I think you'll like them. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.